Welcome to the Black Girl Tale podcast, where we talk about changing unavailable relationship patterns, healing unresolved trauma, and building a healthy relationship with first you and then others. Every episode, we will talk about actionable advice that you can apply today to break unhealthy patterns and grow your self-worth. I'm Sheena Tubbs. Let's begin. Hello again. Welcome to the latest episode of Black Girls Heal. I am so happy to be doing this week's podcast episode with you. We are week 2 into Couples Month. And so this month I am talking about issues that are very pertinent to those of us who are in committed partnerships or committed healthy partnerships. If you're with someone who is unavailable to you or someone who is not the right person for you, all of the things that I'm talking about this month are good for you to hear as far as aspirations, but I want you to be very clear and know that if you're trying to get someone who cannot or will not give you what you need, be healthy for you, you will be setting yourself up for disappointment and hurt. You can know if you're with someone who's unavailable by listening to any of our podcasts before today's. Just look at a title and see what stands out to you and see if you can relate to it. But for today, I'm going to be pouring into those of us who are in partnerships with people who are healthy, those of us who want to be that healthy partner ourselves and want to just know how to be open and available and vulnerable to the people who we love and the future people who we want to love one day. So today's topic is 3 ways to maintain a healthy relationship. So my hope in me talking about this is that there are some things that you have heard that sound familiar, because repetition is really the best way for us to learn. Sometimes it takes you hearing the same advice multiple times over and over again before you're like, oh, that's actually good advice that I should probably take, right? And so some of what I'm going to talk about today may have themes that you have heard other teachers, other coaches, other self-help books, your therapist talk about before. And so maybe it may hit different today, or maybe it just may emphasize and reinforce what you already know to be true, or plant seeds if this is the first time hearing it. However, what I also hope to add to the conversation is how the things that I'm going to talk about today may look differently when you are, may look differently. I don't know. I'll look up the right way to say that after this podcast episode. But may look differently is what I'll say for now. When you are struggling with an intimacy disorder. For my new listeners, an intimacy disorder is just what it sounds like. So having difficulty letting other people get close to you and you getting close to them as well. And I really like to focus on those of us who deal in the extremes. So those of us who this is a persistent, consistent problem with every relationship that we have, that we may have done some crazy, outrageous things at times to try to get someone to love us, in our self-abandonment of ourselves, and some of the chaos that we have had, or maybe just really disappointed ourselves, or maybe this is just really hard to shake no matter how much we intellectualize it, how much therapy we go to. It is maybe the needle's moving, but not as much as we may want it to. My hope is that this podcast and all the other resources that I put out helps accelerate your process. So before I start, let me just say thank you to everyone who came out to last Friday's Healing Our Mother Wounds workshop. It was a last minute decision that I made to have that workshop. I had that decision at like 1:00 a.m. on, I guess, Sunday morning before Mother's Day. And I was like, my ladies need this. And so I went and I had some graphics made and I started promoting, and y'all showed up and showed out, and it was so good. We had a lot of laughs that evening. There was a lot of breakthroughs, a lot of great information. Everybody left with an emotional care plan to help take care of yourself during this past Mother's Day. We talked about breaking generational curses. I gave y'all some really great information. And so I really, really loved giving and serving you ladies who were able to come. And so I got a lot of requests to do it again, and especially to do one for Father's Day. That may not happen, but I just want to say that was great. And it was so great getting to know you ladies. And hopefully that just continues to plant seeds of growth and love and generational blessings for you in the future. And my next announcement is a mini one. I'm going to be talking about our fall conference next week. I'm going to be going into all the details for those of you who have been interested and waiting and wanting to hear more about it. Yes, we are having a conference this fall. No, it will not be in person because of the Rona, and she's been playing games with everything this year, and we're not taking any chances. However, we will be pouring into you conference style with all things from swag to speakers to workbooks to actually helping you build a real transformational experience. So going back to your everyday life will not be the same. We're going to be talking all about the components of self-love and digging into yourself and never again having to deal with the frustration of when people tell you you should just love yourself, you being like, but I do, or I thought I did, but apparently I keep hitting these same roadblocks and walls. So what is it that I'm missing? What is actually going on? What is the deal? This is where we're going to get into it during this event. And so I'm going to be talking more about that next week. Going to be teaching materials that even my coaching students haven't heard before. So this is going to be the new for everybody, which I think is important because I know a lot of y'all have been following me for years. And so I just want you to know that I'm going to continue elevating your experience and elevating your healing process as long as we are together in this journey, girl. So just stay tuned for that next week. So let's go ahead and jump into this week's lesson. And let me just say that's where this is coming from. So this couples month, so many of y'all have been with me for so long that you've changed, like you've grown, you've healed, like you have been taking. I've had people who've sent me screenshots of their journal entries where they will take notes of podcast episodes and just like go over them and study them, talk about whatever I talk about at the podcast episode with their therapist, talk about it with their friends, send episodes. And so many of y'all have grown with me. Some of y'all have taken my little freebie things. Some of you have taken my mid bite-sized things. For example, like the Healing Our Mother Wounds workshop was like a really, really small investment. And some of you have done my bigger coaching programs. And so with that, I mean, y'all have elevated and grown to where you're now loving yourself. You now have healthier friendships and healthy relationships. And so I got to talk to and I have to speak to how do you focus on yourself when you are in a healthy partnership, right? As we change and as we reach different levels, we need new things. So hopefully what I talk about this month as far as couple issues helps give you some of that insight and helps bridge that gap for those of you who need it. And for those of you who are joining me for the first time or you're new to this podcast and new to me, I still hope the same for you, that this helps give you exactly what you need right now. So 3 ways to maintain a healthy relationship when you struggle with an intimacy disorder. The first one is you need to push yourself into safety. Okay, you need to push yourself into safety. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is if you're with someone who is a healthy partner, that means they are healthy and emotionally available for you. That means that they care about your emotions. That means that they ask you about your emotions. That means they listen actively and reflect what you're feeling, and they will show up and talk about what they're feeling, and that they spend time with you, all those things. So when someone shows up for us, when we're so used to being abandoned and so used to being forgotten and having to fix someone and chase someone to love us, it can be very jarring. It can be very scary and unnerving. And we may want to push that away. And what you need to push away instead of that person is that fear. And you got to push yourself and walk towards the safety. So if they're asking you to spend time with them, you need to walk over to the couch wherever they are. You need to push yourself to not let the phone go to voicemail, even though you're sitting there totally able to answer the phone, but you don't answer because of some fear of looking too available, or it's going to teach them a lesson. And who knows what that lesson is, that you're not available all the time, or that you're important, or that they should miss you, which is all based on your own trauma of you pushing somebody away, trying to sabotage the relationship. But it's you pushing yourself to be available for this person, to initiate things, to respond when he or she tries to be there for you, to where they no longer have to try and force you to be open to their love, but that you actually do it. That you speak about your emotions without them having to drag it out of you. That you say, I'm sorry first. That you say, I love you. That you give. That you are present even when things feel too good, right? That you stop testing the person that you're with. That you let what they're already doing be facts of the situation. Again, because I know that that is a classic line from fuck boys and fuck girls alike. I am not saying for you to take their half-ass attempts of calling you sometimes and showing up sometimes for dates and telling you that they like you only when it's just you and them, but when they don't claim you anywhere else. And then when they say, well, you should just take what I'm giving you and just understand that that's what this is and that I really care about you and I love you. No, love is not 25% of the time. Love is 100% of the time. So again, I'm speaking about healthy relationships and partnerships. So if that person is 100% of the time showing up for you, you need to do the same. You need to be a willing participant. Okay? Otherwise, again, like I've said in other podcast episodes and teaching, if this is a healthy person, they will leave. And they have every right to leave. Because if I'm showing up and I'm being vulnerable to you and you're being avoidant or dismissive or not being responsive, then I need to take care of me and love me. I can love you, but that doesn't have to get in the way of me protecting and valuing my heart, right? So that is number one. You need to push yourself into safety to maintain a healthy relationship when you have an intimacy disorder. Number two, this is related to the first one, but number two is the more you connect, the more you heal yourself. When we deal with intimacy disorders, we are afraid of being connected to somebody, right? So either pick someone who is unavailable, so that way we could never truly connect with them because we're going to be constantly fixing them or momming them or taking care of them or yelling at them or, crying over them. Like it just doesn't work out, right? Or if we're avoidant, that's kind of built in. We pick someone who's either a project ourselves, because then we get to fix them up and be the one who kind of already has the power differential. Like, I don't need you as much as you need me kind of thing, in whatever aspect that is. But you're still not ever really connected to someone. And that's all before they get on your nerves, right? Before you find a reason to break up with them. So you need to know that for you to actually get that healing, it is through relationships and it's through connecting. Okay? So spend time, show up, be a friend, be available. And by doing that, all of your stuff is going to kick up. All of your internal issues, all the reasons that you are really, really afraid to connect to someone is going to kick up. And that is your chance to work on and heal yourself. Okay? So, of course, this is what I work through with my recovery school ladies in our coaching program. This program is all about your side of the street. This is all about working on you and looking at you and looking at your stuff. You can't heal what you don't reveal. That is the phrase. Oh my goodness. That is the phrase that I could not remember at our Mother's Day workshop. So if one of y'all told me that, and I was like, I don't think that's it, but it actually was it. Right now, it just finally like clicked. Like that's what I was trying to say the whole time. My bad, y'all. But yeah, you can't heal what you don't reveal. So yeah, get closer, see what comes up, realize that it's about you, not about them, and fix it. Okay? Now, that leads to number 3. Number 3, y'all, this is the doozy, and this is the one that one of two things happens. Either people don't like what I'm about to say, or you listen and you're like, "Oh, okay, cool, I got that." And you totally underestimate what I'm saying. Kind of like, those of you who go to church or who have ever been to church and you hear the pastor talking about something and you're like, "Oh, yeah, my cousin needs to hear this." When really that's a sermon for you. That could totally be your experience. So, number 3, the way that you help maintain a healthy relationship when you struggle with the intimacy disorder is you check yourself for your own triggers. Now, one of the fantasies that happens when people get into relationships, if this is someone who's like been single or for a while or been with people who are unavailable, and like you finally meet someone who is healthy and everything, you're like, oh, like things should be great, things should be perfect. And that's not at all what happens. You may go through the honeymoon period. Hopefully you go through the honeymoon period. If anyone is in a new relationship and it's a struggle from the beginning, pause and get some outside counsel. Of course, I don't know everyone's situation who's listening to this, but if it's this hard at the beginning, it doesn't have to be. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. But people assume that, once I meet the love of my life, that's it, credits roll, and the story ends. But that's not what happens, right? Like, as you merge your life with someone, different things come up. You learn more things about yourself as you're learning about them. One of those things when you struggle with an intimacy disorder, you struggle with the intimacy disorder because of your past trauma. And trauma causes reactions that are not logical. Trauma, when you are triggered, causes reactions that are deep, painful, and they seem like they are based in complete logic. You are deeply hurt and you are deeply offended, and you are super sure that it is them who crossed the line and not that you are the one who took it too far, and you're being very, very emotionally sensitive about it. And even if you are being emotionally sensitive, if they really loved you, then they would just take it, right? When really there's a little bit of the person that you're with can hold space for you. But if you're constantly being triggered and putting it on the other person to caretake you, to fix you, to soothe you, because you don't know how to do it yourself, or you don't want to do it yourself, or you have in your mind that it's their responsibility, what you're going to do is you're going to find yourself in a series of relationships, hopefully with people who are healthy and that you don't go back to what you used to do before. But you're going to find yourself in a series of relationships with people who are not showing up in the way that you want them to. And then what you're gonna find, because you've already kind of self-determined that they're the problem and not you, is that none of this stuff works. Like, my healing didn't work, my journey didn't work. I'm right back to where I started. Versus, no, you've grown a lot and you have a lot of insight, and you have picked a healthy partner, and now this is your next level of healing, right? There is actually the truth that being in a partnership strikes different insecurities in you that were not there when you were single. So maybe you have an insecurity about where he or she is spending their time because of abandonment issues. So whenever they work a little bit later than you want them to, like maybe they came home an hour late from work, or they texted you an hour later than they said they would, because you had a trauma where your dad was always working late with your mom, subconsciously or even consciously, it's connected to that, and you go into your trauma response. And you'll say something like, well, you told me you would text me, where were you? And they say, well, I was working. And then when they don't apologize profusely, you're like, you're not showing up for me, you're not emotionally available, when really you've taken a one-time thing and you've made this a pattern, right? And you've made this evidence that this relationship isn't going to work out, when really throughout your relationship, your partner may work late sometimes. Your partner will have his or her own life and not be glued to the phone and text you all the time. And if you have insecurities on the inside of you that can't handle that, then you are going to continue to push people away. So this is what I mean about if you're actually listening to me, and especially if one of these two triggers hits you, this might be a time that you're like, I was with Sheena until this point, and that's okay. I mean, when it comes to me or any other teacher that you listen to, you can take what you need and leave the rest. But I'm still going to say this the same. If you are not taking full accountability of your own triggers and noticing the times that you get extra emotionally sensitive, those might be, not those might be, those are places for your own healing. And you can use a trusted mental health professional or coach or whoever that you're using to help you pinpoint, why is this extra painful for me? For you to clear that out and then see what's left. Once that pain is clear, then you can see with a clear mind, was this really out of line and wrong and a boundary breach with this partner, or was this me? If it's the boundary breach with your partner, now this is where I get to practice communication. And this is where I get to practice not exiting a relationship, because again, many of us are cutoff queens. We are very good at falling in love. We're not very good at staying. So that's your bonus when it comes to maintaining a healthy relationship. You can't leave. You cannot find reasons to leave just because it gets uncomfortable. And it could be that that's your intimacy disorder popping up. So that's where your healing process comes into play, because you have to be the one to figure that out. Okay? So hopefully this podcast has been helpful for those of you who needed it. Hopefully some point, one of these points hit you where you needed it today. Even if you were like, the rest of it is like, I don't know about that. Okay, that's fine. I'll take 20%, if not the 100. So that is it for this podcast episode. I can't wait to tell y'all about our fall conference more next week. I'm very excited about it. And then for those of you who are our newest students to the recovery school, I love you. You are lit. You're like so excited about healing and investing in yourself and doing the homework and showing up for yourself. And you're already like getting so many great breakthroughs. I'm so excited for you. If you are someone who's like, I want in on this, I want to be a part of this family. All of my recovery school students got in for free at our healing workshop. So I love blessing my ladies. So if you're interested in that, you can go to therecoveryschool.com and learn more about it there. So that is it for today. I hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care of yourselves.